Good evening. I'm Kelly Phillips. Thank you for joining us. The White House is treating today's explosions at the Boston Marathon as an act of terrorism. At least 3 people were killed, including an 8-year-old boy, and more than 140 injured at the place near the finish line where the explosives went off. 3 runners from Southeast Texas competed in the Boston Marathon, and according to the marathon website, each finished. Sources tell CBS News that a man is being detained and police are questioning him, but he is not being called a suspect. Investigators are also looking at surveillance tapes and other images of the scene before and after the explosions to try to piece together what happened and who might be responsible. The 3 local runners include Joseph Frazier and Daniel Villarreal of Beaumont. Both finished according to the marathon website. The 3rd local runner is Amanda Britnell of Orange. She ran track at Lamar University, and this was her first Boston Marathon. She finished in about 3.5 hours. KFDM spoke with Amanda Britnell tonight at 6 live from her cell phone from Boston. KFDM reporter Megan Dillard shares Britnell's description of the moments after she crossed the finish line.
It's supposed to be a place to celebrate achievement, dedication, accomplishment. Instead, the finish line Monday at the Boston Marathon became a scene of chaos and fear.
I talked to a guy and he just said, people's limbs are gone and their children hurt. And he's like, this is bad, this is bad.
Amanda Britnell lives in Orange. She and her husband went to Boston so Britnell could run the race.
It was just so crazy. It was unreal.
She heard the 2 explosions minutes after crossing the finish line. Britnell was in the medical tent. A nurse was treating her for fatigue.
And that's when the police started running through the middle, telling us to clear out the middle of the tent, and they started wheeling people in from the explosion.
The runner didn't immediately find her husband.
So I started borrowing people's cell phones, trying to get a hold of him, and nothing was going through.
Investigators shut off cellular phone service in Boston to prevent the remote detonation of any other explosives. This also kept Britnell from talking with friends here in Texas, friends she's trained with.
I ran over the Port Arthur Bridge a lot with some of my friends, Lionel.
I was wondering if she was all right, because I texted her and it went to voicemail, so I wasn't sure if she was all right or not.
Britnell was able to get word to Texas she was safe, and she reunited with her husband at their hotel, but not before the scene around her really sank in.
I saw these black vehicles pull up, and these guys in Army fatigues jump out, and it says FBI on their back, and they've got helmets on and guns, and I was like, oh, that's when I realized it was something really bad going on.
A place meant to be the highest moment of a runner's race. Instead, the end of a journey ripped apart by devastation.
Oh my God, they're dead.
In Beaumont, Megan Dillard, KFDM 6 News.
So supportive and just checking on us, and way more than I would have ever imagined.
Her husband are back home in Orange. The pair traveled home from Boston yesterday after becoming witnesses to the attacks at the Boston Marathon. Good evening. I'm Kelly Phillips. Thank you for joining us. Conflicting reports today out of Boston as some media outlets claimed a law enforcement source said a suspect was in custody and expected in federal court. But the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston still say no arrests have been made. Officials do say a suspect has been identified from a surveillance video taken from a department store near the blast. As investigators in white jumpsuits fanned out across streets and rooftops around the area, the bombs went off this morning. A federal courthouse in Boston was evacuated due to a bomb threat. Security cleared the buildings of any threats. No arrests have been made in that case. And one of the Boston Marathon participants from Southeast Texas is home with her family tonight. KFDM reporter Megan Dillard sat down today with Amanda Britnell. Megan joins us now in the studio with more. Megan?
Well, I can tell you the Britnells are glad to be back. They say what was meant to be a celebration of accomplishment for runners who trained so hard turned into a nightmare. The Britnells were there to see it firsthand.
It's the first time Amanda Britnell has run since completing the Boston Marathon.
The neat thing about running is it doesn't matter how old you are, or, you know, if you're male or female, it gives everybody one common goal.
With each step, she carries fresh memories of Monday's explosions at the finish line of that race. Britnell was recovering from fatigue in the medical tent.
They started wheeling people in, and I saw one lady, and she had blood running down her face. That's when I realized, whoa, there's something really bad.
Her husband, Brad, was waiting for Amanda not far from the first explosion.
It's just kind of shocking, you know, being there and something like that happening where you are.
The pair reunited within the hour at the hotel where they were staying.
Come see.
Today, in the comfort of their living room in Orange, the Britnells reflect on Monday's events.
I guess it gives you a different outlook on life than what you had before.
Amanda says none of her races compare to the atmosphere of the Boston Marathon.
Running through the course, there's never a spot where there's not spectators. There's always people there, and there's families out there, and everybody's sticking their hand out for you to clap their hands as you go by.
Memories and accomplishments she shares with her husband.
There you go.
And 2 boys.
I'm glad that both me and her are able to raise our children together and, you know, teach them our values, teach them about God, and, you know, just everything that we believe in. So I wouldn't want anybody else to have that opportunity other than ourselves.
An opportunity this mother and father recognize and promise not to take lightly. A chance that could have been stolen during Monday's attacks.
Amanda Britnell says the people and city in general made Boston special. She shared the story of one runner who planned to run 50 marathons in 50 states. She'd saved Boston for her last race and because of the bombs was unable to finish. Britnell says stories like that, the run itself, and all she and her husband endured made her first Boston Marathon something she'll never forget. Reporting live in the studio, Megan Dillard, 6 News Tonight.
Investigators in Boston say the bombing suspect shot and killed a campus police officer at MIT. He was investigating a robbery at a convenience store on the campus. KFDM reporter Megan Dillard has reaction from officers at Lamar University in Beaumont who share in the pain felt by fellow police in Boston.
People across the nation have watched drama unfold. Following Monday's bombing at the Boston Marathon,
an officer has been shot.
Investigators named 2 suspects. Thursday, authorities say the pair shot an MIT campus officer in Massachusetts, then led police through a shootout outside Boston.
It's been almost exhausting to try and keep up with everything and watch the news coverage and stay on top of things. But
Jason Goodrich is the chief of the Lamar University Police Department.
I think what it does speak to is the spirit of the country and the American people and how strong we are.
A strength the police chief hopes to impart to his officers.
We look at it almost as a family. You know, the law enforcement professions.
27.
Officer Jared Samford has patrolled the LU campus nearly 3 years. He too feels the pain of losing a brother in blue.
Being an officer, it's kind of a brotherhood. And even before I was an officer, something like that really strikes home.
Today, he showed us parts of Lamar.
Lots of traffic stops, lots of patrols.
And surrounding areas.
We have a Zone 5, which is actually out in the neighborhood on this side of campus.
The Lamar Police Department keeps an eye on both.
Investigators say the Boston Marathon suspect shot an MIT officer at a convenience store on campus at that school. Students here at Lamar have to use an ID to get into the store. Lamar police say it's all about security.
This is a relatively rough area that you have this really nice campus nestled into.
That's why these officers understand the risk on both sides of this fence.
Anytime you see a tragedy like that affect a fellow law enforcement agency, and especially one that's on campus, you know, everybody kind of takes it personally.
And the attack motivates them to work even harder. In Beaumont,
I'd say he did his job. You know, he gave his all to do his job.
Megan Dillard, KFDM 6 News.
The Lamar University Police Department has 29 officers. They work closely with Beaumont Police and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. The Lamar officers drive vehicles, ride bicycles, and patrol on foot to keep an eye on the school and nearby areas.